Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter. The blessed Lord said, they speak of an eternal Ashvata, rooted above and branching below, whose leaves are the Vedas. He who knows it is a Veda knower. Below and above spread its branches, nourished by the gunas. Sense objects are its buds. And below in the world of man stretch forth the roots originating action. Its form is not here perceived as such, neither its end, nor its origin, nor its existence. Having cut asunder this firm-rooted Ashvata with the strong axe of non-attachment, then that goal is to be sought for, going whither they, the wise, do not return again. I seek refuge in that primeval Purusha, whence streamed forth the eternal activity. Free from pride and delusion, with the evil of attachment conquered, ever dwelling in the self, with desires completely receded, liberated from the pairs of opposites known as pleasure and pain, the undeluded reach that goal eternal. That the sun illumines not, nor the moon, nor fire, that is my supreme abode, going whither they return not. An eternal portion of myself, having become a living soul in the world of life, draws to itself the five senses, with mind for the sixth, abiding in Prakriti. When the Lord obtains a body, and when he leaves it, he takes these and goes, as the wind takes the scents from their seats, the flowers. Presiding over the ear, the eye, the touch, the taste, and the smell, as also the mind, he experiences objects. Him, while transmigrating from one body to another, or residing in the same, or experiencing, or when united with the gunas, the deluded do not see, but those who have the eye of wisdom behold him. The yogis, striving for perfection, behold him dwelling in themselves, but the unrefined and unintelligent, even though striving, see him not. The light which, residing in the sun, illumines the whole world, that which is in the moon and in the fire, know that light to be mine. Entering the earth with my energy, I support all beings, and I nourish all the herbs, becoming the watery moon. Abiding in the body of living beings, as the fire, Vaishvanara, I, associated with prana and apana, digest the fourfold food. I am centered in the hearts of all. Memory and perception as well as their loss come from me. I am verily that which has to be known by all the Vedas. I indeed am the author of the Vedanta, and the knower of the Veda am I. There are two Purushas in the world, the perishable and the imperishable. All beings are the perishable, and the Kuntasa. All beings are the perishable, and the Kutastha is called imperishable. But there is another, the supreme Purusha, called the highest self, the immutable Lord, who, pervading the three worlds, sustains them. As I transcend the perishable and am above even the imperishable, therefore am I in the world and in the Veda celebrated as the Purushatama, the highest Purusha. He who, free from delusion, thus knows me, the highest spirit, he, knowing all, worships me with all his heart, O descendant of Bharata. Thus, O sinless one, has this most profound teaching been imparted by me. Knowing this one attains the highest intelligence, and will have accomplished all one's duties, O descendant of Bharata. Knowing this, one attains the highest intelligence, and will have accomplished all one's duties, O descendant of Bharata. The end of the 15th chapter designated the way to the Supreme Spirit. The 16th chapter. The blessed Lord said, fearlessness, purity of heart, steadfastness in knowledge, and yoga, almsgiving, control of the senses, yajna, reading of the shastras, austerity, uprightness, non-injury, truth, absence of anger, renunciation, tranquility, absence of calumny, compassion to beings, uncovetousness, gentleness, modesty, absence of fickleness, boldness, forgiveness, fortitude, purity, absence of hatred, absence of pride. These belong to one born for a divine state, O descendant of Bharata. Ostentation, arrogance, and self-conceit, anger as also harshness and ignorance, belong to one who is born, O Partha, for an Asuraka state. The divine state is deemed to make for liberation, the Asuraka for bondage. Grieve not, O Pandava, thou art born for a divine state. There are two types of being in this world, the divine and the Asuraka. The divine have been described at length. Hear from me, O Partha, of the Asuraka. The persons of Asuraka nature know not what to do and what to refrain from, neither is purity found in them, nor good conduct, nor truth. They say, the universe is without truth, without a moral basis, without a God, brought about by mutual union with lust for its cause. What else? Holding this view, these ruined souls of small intellect and fierce deeds rise as the enemies of the world for its destruction. Filled with insatiable desires, full of hypocrisy, pride, and arrogance, holding evil ideas through delusion, they work with impure resolve. Beset with immense cares ending only with death, regarding gratification of lust as the highest, and feeling sure that that is all, bound by 100 ties of hope, given over to lust and wrath, they strive to secure by unjust means hoards of wealth for sensual enjoyment. This today has been gained by me. This desire I shall obtain. This is mine, and this wealth also shall be mine in future. That enemy has been slain by me, and others also shall I slay. I am the Lord. I enjoy. I am successful, powerful, and happy. I am rich and well born. Who else is equal to me? I will sacrifice, I will give, I will rejoice. Thus deluded by ignorance, bewildered by many a fancy, covered by the meshes of delusion, addicted to the gratification of lust, they fall down into a foul hell. Self-conceited, haughty, filled with the pride and intoxication of wealth, they perform sacrifices in name, out of ostentation, disregarding ordinance. Possessed of egoism, power, insolence, lust, and wrath, these malignant people hate me, the self within, in their own bodies and those of others. These malicious and cruel evil-doers, most degraded of men, I hurl perpetually into the wombs of Asuras, only in these worlds. Obtaining the Asurika wombs and deluded birth after birth, not attaining to me, they thus fall, O son of Kunti, into a still lower condition. Triple is this gate of hell, destruction of the self, lust, anger, and greed. Therefore one should forsake these three. The man who has got beyond these three gates of darkness, O son of Kunti, the man who has got beyond these three gates of darkness, O son of Kunti, practices what is good for himself, and thus goes to the goal supreme. He who, setting aside the ordinance of the Shastra, acts under the impulse of desire, attains not to perfection, nor happiness, nor the goal supreme. So let the Shastra be thy authority in ascertaining what ought to be done and what ought not to be done. Having known what is said in the ordinance of the Shastra, thou shouldst act here. The end of the 16th chapter, designated the classification of the divine and non-divine. 17th chapter. Arjuna said, those who, setting aside the ordinance of the Shastra, perform sacrifice with Shraddha, what is their condition, O Krishna? Is it sattva, rajas, or tamas? The blessed Lord said, "Threefold is the Shraddha of the embodied, which is inherent in their nature, the Sattvika, the Rajasika, and the Tamasika. Do thou hear of it. The Shraddha of each is according to his natural disposition. O descendant of Bharata, the man consists of his Shraddha. He verily is what his Shraddha is. Sattvika men worship the Devas, Rajasika, the Yakshas, and the Rakshasas. The others, the Tamasika men, the Pretas, and the hosts of Bhutas. Those men who practice severe austerities not enjoined by the Shastras, given to ostentation and egoism, possessed with the power of lust and attachment, torture, senseless as they are, all the organs in the body, and me dwelling in the body within, know them to be of Asurika resolve. The food also which is liked by each of them is threefold, as also yajna, austerity and almsgiving. Do thou hear this, their distinction. Foods which augment vitality, energy, strength, health, cheerfulness, and appetite, which are savory and oleaginous, substantial and agreeable, are liked by the Sattvika. The foods that are bitter, sour, saline, excessively hot, pungent, dry, and burning are liked by the Rajasika and are productive of pain, grief, and disease. That which is stale, tasteless, stinking, cooked overnight, refuse, and impure is the food liked by the Tamasika. That yajna is sattvika, which is performed by men desiring no fruit, as enjoined by ordinance, with their mind fixed on the yajna only, for its own sake. That which is performed, O best of the Bharatas, seeking for fruit and for ostentation, know it to be a Rajasika yajna. The yajna performed without heed to ordinance, in which no food is distributed, which is devoid of mantras, gifts, and shraddha, is said to be tamasika. Worship of the devas, the twice-born, the gurus, and the wise, purity, straightforwardness, continence, and non-injury are called the austerity of the body. Speech which causes no vexation and is true, as also agreeable and beneficial, and regular study of the Vedas, these are said to form the austerity of speech. Serenity of mind, kindliness, silence, self-control, honesty of motive, this is called the mental austerity. This threefold austerity practiced by steadfast men, with great shraddha, desiring no fruit, is said to be sattvika. That austerity which is practiced with the object of gaining welcome, honor, and worship, and with ostentation, is here said to be rajasika, unstable and transitory. That austerity which is practiced out of a foolish notion, with self-torture for the purpose of winning another, is declared to be tamasika. To give is right. Gift given with this idea to one who does no service in return, in a fit place and to a worthy person, that gift is held to be sattvika. And what is given with a view to receiving in return, or looking for the fruit, or again reluctantly, that gift is held to be rajasika. The gift that is given at the wrong place or time to unworthy persons, without regard or with disdain, that is declared to be tamasika. Om Tat Sat. This has been declared to be the triple designation of Brahman. By that were made of old the Brahmanas, the Vedas, and the Yajnas. By that were made of old the Brahmanas, the Vedas, and the Yajnas. Therefore, uttering Om are the acts of sacrifice, gift, and austerity as enjoined in the ordinances, always begun by the followers of the Vedas. Uttering Tat without aiming at fruits are the various acts of Yajna, austerity and gift performed by the seekers of moksha. The word sat is used in the sense of reality and of goodness, and so also pata. The word sat is used in the sense of an auspicious act. Steadiness in yajna, austerity, and gift is also called sat, as also action in connection with those, or action for the sake of the Lord, is called sat. Whatever is sacrificed, given, or performed, and whatever austerity is practiced without shraddha, it is called asat, O Partha. It is not here or hereafter. The end of the 17th chapter. designated the inquiry into the threefold Shraddha. 18th chapter. Arjuna said, I desire to know severally, O mighty armed, the truth of sannyasa, O Hrishikesha, as also of Tyaga, O slayer of Keshi. The blessed Lord said, the renunciation of kamya actions the sages understand as sannyasa. The wise declare the abandonment of the fruits of all works as tyaga. Some philosophers declare that all action should be relinquished as an evil, whilst others say that the work of yajna, gift and austerity should not be relinquished. Hear from me the final truth about relinquishment, O best of the Bharatas, for relinquishment has been declared to be of three kinds, O tiger among men. The work of yajna, gift and austerity should not be relinquished, but it should indeed be performed. For yajna, gift and austerity are purifying to the wise. But even these works, O Partha, should be performed, leaving attachment in the fruits. Such is my best and certain conviction. But the renunciation of obligatory action is not proper. Abandonment of the same from delusion is declared to be tamasika. He who from fear of bodily trouble relinquishes action because it is painful, thus performing a rajasika relinquishment, he obtains not the fruit thereof. When obligatory work is performed, O Arjuna, only because it ought to be done, leaving attachment and fruit, such relinquishment is regarded as sattvika. The relinquisher endued with sattva and a steady understanding, and with his doubts dispelled, hates not a disagreeable work, nor is attached to an agreeable one. Actions cannot be entirely relinquished by an embodied being, but he who relinquishes the fruits of action is called a relinquisher. The threefold fruit of action, disagreeable, agreeable, and mixed, accrues to non-relinquishers after death, but never to relinquishers. Learn from me, O mighty armed, these 5 causes for the accomplishment of all works as declared in the wisdom which is the end of all action. The body, the agent, the various senses, the different functions of a manifold kind, and the presiding divinity, the 5th of these. Whatever action a man performs by his body, speech, and mind, whether right or the reverse, these 5 are its causes. Such being the case, he who, though a non-purified understanding, looks upon his self, the absolute, as the agent, he of perverted mind sees not. He who is free from the notion of egoism, whose intelligence is not affected by good or evil, though he kills these people, he kills not, nor is bound by the action. He who is free from the notion of egoism, whose intelligence is not affected by good or evil, though he kills these people, he kills not, nor is bound by the action. Knowledge, the known, and the knower form the threefold cause of action. The instrument, the object, and the agent are the threefold basis of action. Knowledge, action, and agent are declared in the Sankhya philosophy to be of 3 kinds only. From the distinction of gunas, hear them also duly. That by which the one indestructible substance is seen in all beings, inseparate in the separated, know that knowledge to be sattvika. But that knowledge which sees in all beings various entities of distinct kinds as different from one another, know thou that knowledge is rajasika. Whilst that which is confined to one single effect as if it were the whole, without reason, without foundation in truth, and trivial, that is declared to be tamasika. An ordained action done without love or hatred by one not desirous of the fruit and free from attachment is declared to be sattvika. But the action which is performed desiring desires or with self-conceit and with much effort is declared to be rajasika. That action is declared to be tamasika, which is undertaken through delusion, without heed to the consequence, loss of power and wealth, injury to others and one's own ability. An agent who is free from attachment, non-egotistic, endued with fortitude and enthusiasm, and unaffected in success or failure is called sattvika. He who is passionate, desirous of the fruits of action, greedy, malignant, impure, easily elated or dejected, such an agent is called Rajasika. Unsteady, vulgar, arrogant, dishonest, malicious, indolent, desponding, and procrastinating, such an agent is called Tamasika. Hear thou the triple distinction of intellect and fortitude according to the gunas, as I declare them exhaustively and severally, O Dhananjaya. That which knows the path of work and renunciation, right and wrong action, fear and fearlessness, bondage and liberation, that intellect, O Partha, is Sattvika. That which has a distorted apprehension of dharma and its opposite, and also of right action and its opposite, that intellect, O Partha, is Rajasika. That which enveloped in darkness regards adharma as dharma, and views all things in a perverted light, that intellect, O Partha, is Tamasika. The fortitude by which the functions of the mind, the prana, and the senses, O Partha, are regulated, that fortitude unswerving through yoga. But the fortitude by which one regulates one's mind to dharma, desire and wealth, desirous of the fruit of each from attachment, that fortitude, O Partha, is Rajasika. That by which a stupid man does not give up sleep, fear, grief, despondency, and also overweening conceit, that fortitude, O Partha, is Tamasika. And now hear from me, O bull of the Bharatas, of the threefold happiness, that happiness which one learns to enjoy by habit, and by which one comes to the end of pain. That which is like poison at first, but like nectar at the end, that happiness is declared to be Sattvika, born of the translucence of intellect due to self-realization. That which arises from the contact of object with sense, at first like nectar, but at the end like poison, that happiness is declared to be Rajasika. That happiness which begins and results in self-delusion, arising from sleep, indolence, and miscomprehension, that is declared to be Tamasika. There is no entity on earth, or again in heaven among the devas, that is devoid of these three gunas, born of Prakriti. O Brahmanas, and Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, as also of Sudras, O scorcher of foes, the duties are distributed according to the gunas born of their own nature. Control of the mind and the senses, austerity, purity, forbearance, and also uprightness, knowledge, realization, belief in a hereafter. These are the duties of the Brahmanas, born of their own nature. Prowess, boldness, fortitude, dexterity, and also not flying from battle, generosity and sovereignty are the duties of the Kshatriyas, born of their own nature. Agriculture, cattle rearing, and trade are the duties of the Vaishyas, born of their own nature, and action consisting of service is the duty of the Sudras, born of their own nature. Devoted each to his own duty, man attains the highest perfection. How engaged in his own duty he attains perfection, that he. From whom is the evolution of all beings, by whom all this is pervaded, worshipping him with his own duty, a man attains perfection. Better is one's own dharma, though imperfect, than the dharma of another well performed. He who does the duty ordained by his own nature incurs no evil. One should not relinquish, O son of Kunti, the duty to which one is born, though it is attended with evil, for all undertakings are enveloped by evil, as fire by smoke. All undertakings are enveloped by evil, as fire by smoke. He whose intellect is unattached everywhere, who has subdued his heart, whose desires have fled, he attains by renunciation to the supreme perfection, consisting of freedom from action. Learn from me in brief, O son of Kunti, how reaching such perfection he attains to Brahman, that supreme consummation of knowledge. Endued with a pure intellect, subduing the body and the senses with fortitude, relinquishing sound and such other sense objects, abandoning attraction and hatred, resorting to a sequestered spot, eating but little, body, speech, and mind controlled, ever engaged in meditation and concentration, possessed of dispassion, Forsaking egoism, power, pride, lust, wrath, and property, freed from the notion of mine and tranquil, he is fit for becoming Brahman. Brahman become, tranquil-minded, he neither grieves nor desires. The same to all beings, he attains to supreme devotion unto me. By devotion he knows me in reality, what and who I am. Then having known me in reality, he forthwith enters into me. Even doing all actions always, taking refuge in me, by my grace he attains to the eternal immutable state. Resigning mentally all deeds to me, having me as the highest goal, resorting to Buddhi Yoga, do thou ever fix thy mind on me. Fixing thy mind on me, thou shalt by my grace overcome all obstacles. But if from self-conceit thou wilt not hear me, thou shalt perish. If filled with self-conceit thou thinkest I will not fight, vain is this thy resolve, thy prakriti will constrain thee. Fettered, O son of Kunti, by thy own karma, born of thy own nature, what thou from delusion desirest not to do, thou shalt have to do in spite of thyself. The Lord, O Arjuna, dwells in the hearts of all beings, causing all beings by his Maya to revolve as if mounted on a machine. Take refuge in him with all thy heart, O Bharata. By his grace shalt thou attain supreme peace in the eternal abode. Thus has wisdom more profound than all profundities been declared to thee by me. Reflecting over it fully, act as thou likest. Hear thou again my supreme word, the profoundest of all, because thou art dearly beloved of me. Therefore will I speak what is good to thee. Occupy thy mind with me, be devoted to me, sacrifice to me, bow down to me, thou shalt reach myself. Truly do I promise unto thee, for thou art dear to me. Relinquishing all dramas, take refuge in me alone. I will liberate thee from all sins, grieve not. This is never to be spoken by thee to one who is devoid of austerities or devotion, nor to one who does not render service, nor to one who cavils at me. He who with supreme devotion to me will teach this deeply profound philosophy to my devotees shall doubtless come to me alone. Nor among men is there any who does dearer service to me, nor shall there be another on earth dearer to me than he. And he who will study this sacred dialogue of ours, by him shall I have been worshipped by the yajna of knowledge. Such is my conviction. And even that man who hears this, full of shraddha and free from malice, he too, liberated, shall attain to the happy worlds of those of righteous deeds. Has this been heard by thee, Partha, with an attentive mind? Has the delusion of thy ignorance been destroyed, O Dhananjaya? Destroyed is my delusion, and I have gained my memory through thy grace, O Achyuta. I am firm. My doubts are gone. I will do thy word. Sanjaya said, Thus have I heard this wonderful dialogue between Vasudeva and the high-souled Partha, causing my hair to stand on end. Through the grace of Vyasa have I heard this supreme and most profound yoga, direct from Krishna, the Lord of Yoga, himself declaring it. O King, as I remember this wonderful and holy dialogue between Keshava and Arjuna, I rejoice again and again. And as I remember that most wonderful form of Hari, great is my wonder, O King, and I rejoice again and again. Wherever is Krishna, the Lord of Yoga, wherever is Partha, the wielder of the bow, there are prosperity, victory, expansion, and sound policy. Such is my conviction. Thus, in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the essence of the Upanishads, the science of the Brahman, the scripture of Yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, ends the 18th chapter designated The Way of Liberation and Renunciation. Here the Bhagavad Gita ends. Om, peace, peace, peace be to all.